What's going on, everybody? And welcome into the 104th episode of the Crazy One podcast. As always, my name is Steve Gates, and today we continue the Share the Mic Now series of shows. Now, the show today is brought to you by three incredible people: Jackie Velasquez Ross, Dorcie Lovinsky, and Christian Clark. Now, I've been lucky enough to work in the same company as them. Jackie and I had worked together. She's a senior recruiter for us. We'd worked together a little bit. Dorcie and Christian and I hadn't had the opportunity to spend much time together, but they were a part of a meeting that took place a few months ago that is one I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. I think even as I think back to sort of what was the moment or the impetus to start to do my exploration that's led to these shows, the three of them has a huge part to do with it. Because what they just did was they shared what is it like to work in tech while Black. And this is going to be the first in a series of shows that they're going to be putting together on that topic, to be able to share who they are, what their experience has been, what their challenges have been. And this is another one of those cases where, for me, hearing that perspective, hearing the energy, hearing the hope, hearing so much of it that is about them, just is profoundly insightful. It is, again, I think a call to action to understand what other people are going through. So again, it's my incredible pleasure to be able to introduce Jackie Velasquez Ross, Dorcie Lovinsky, and Christian Clark.
This is
Working in Tech While Black. Christian, Dorcie, and myself, Jackie, are having a series of conversations together and with other tech professionals about our experiences as Black people in our personal lives and also in our professional lives. We're super excited to have you on this journey with us, and we can't wait for you to hear our stories. We're having this call, and we decided to create this mini podcast because a couple of months ago, we saw the death of murder, really, of George Floyd, and we had just seen Ahmaud Arbery be killed as well, and all the protests were happening, and we happened to all work together at Envision. We all do different things, and Dorcie and I had some fun times together, but don't work together directly. And Christian, you and I have never worked together either, but to be honest, we are all Black people working at the company, and there's not that many of us. And I put together a panel for the company to listen to our stories as Black people working at Envision, but just the way that we move through the world and live our lives and our experiences. And really beautiful and a really, really powerful conversation that we had. And I'm so grateful that you all decided to bare your souls to all these people. And, we agreed and decided that we wanted to have more conversations. And so I'm so excited to continue the conversation with you all. And I kind of want to just open it up like I did last time. But I want to know, how do you move through this world? Who are you?
Sorry, my dog is having a moment right now. Thinking that someone's going to come into our world right now in this apartment. Yeah. So Dorcie Lovinsky. I am formerly a software engineer / data engineer / now engineering manager. Thank you, Jackie. Woo-woo. And I move through the world currently just with this level of hope for a future that will involve Black folk like us being able to get chances in life that we don't often get without feeling like we're a statistic or a box that's being checked off, right? Getting real chances, getting blind chances, not seeing my face, just giving me a chance. I must say I'm very fortunate to have the name that I have. Dorcie, people are confused about. Lovinsky, everyone thinks I'm Polish or white or all that. So on paper, I feel like I oftentimes do get that fair shot. And then when they meet me, they're like, oh shit, who you? Interesting story. When I was in ninth grade, I went to a Catholic high school, and my teacher was doing the roll call, and she's like, so Dorcie Lovinsky, and I raised my hand, and she does a double take, and she goes, when I was doing the roster during the summer, I thought you were going to be white. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm Black. What do you want me to do? But I oftentimes get mistaken just by name, and then they see me and they're like, oh, but you're Black, and I'm confused. But I want a world where we move through and everyone has that chance. Everyone has a white last name, right? and everyone is like looked at as, oh, you're just a person, right? Like, I'm a person, you're a person. Give me a shot, give me a chance. And it's not about who I know or who I schmooze up to in order to get an opportunity. It's just afforded to me because I'm a great human being who works my little butt off all the time. Yeah, that's me. Christian.
Yeah. I mean, what a way to begin. So many different nuggets. And I was like, yes, plus one to that. My name is Christian Clark. I am a strategic renewals manager here at Envision, along with these lovely, strong, beautiful Black women who stand beside me and have been for the last 2 months or so. It's just been a wild ride, and I'm just so ever so grateful for both of you. Currently as well, I'm hopeful. I'm a bit timid, I'll say, just because I've shared a lot, we've shared a lot. And, you have some people who are feeling, I don't know whether it's, I would say put it on a spectrum of from guilt to shame and backwards, back and forth. And it's been a little like tiptoeing around, but at the same time, I do have a cohort that in a support system through my personal life and professional that have helped me to continue speaking up and continuing to encourage me to use my voice to make this change, to not accept status quo anymore, to not accept now they're just going to point fingers at me, but to actually redirect all of this uncomfortable and discomfort to say, hey, no, we're just trying to raise awareness, trying to get you to be just as serious as you are to ignite change. Just that simple, I guess, is where I stand today.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And like for me, I mean, because I guess some people are, maybe a couple people that don't know us are listening, hopefully will listen. I am a Black woman, but I also happen to be mixed. And that's an interesting part of my identity and how I show up, the privileges I've also been given. But I'm half Black African American and half Mexican American, and my mother is white passing, and so that for me, so I have this fight with different people about it. Some people say I'm light skinned. I don't always think I'm light skinned, but apparently I'm light skinned. But okay, but I will.
You're yellow. No, you're yellow.
Look,
I have the same battle. It
depends on the time of year and where I am and how much sun I've had. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I will say I have been afforded a lot of opportunity because of the way that I look, and because of my last name. I use both of my last names. People take a double look, or they're like interested because they're like, oh, what is she? But I am a Black woman. I have a Black family. I have a Black partner. I have 2 Black little boys. And that's something that I really think about a lot, is like being a mother and like wanting to create a world in which my boys can thrive and can live and won't be shot or killed or lynched or whatever it might be because they are Black. I want them to live a carefree life. And I hope that they will be able to, but I'm not sure. I'm really honestly not sure. And that's why I share my story and why I talk to people about things and why I probably sometimes make people uncomfortable, because I want them to know that like my sons deserve to live just as much as any other person does, just as any other white child does. And so I think that's why it's so important to talk about our experiences and to talk about the good things and the not so great things that have happened to us in our careers and our lives, and to tell people like this is real. Like it's not just like, even though like we all are very well educated and quote unquote well spoken, we still have been discriminated against. We still have faced injustice. We still have faced racism and sexism and all the intersections of all the isms. And so it's not just people who you think are uneducated or I hate to talk about it, but it happens to all of us. It doesn't matter because we're Black.
All shades of Black it happens to, right?
All socioeconomic statuses, all education levels, it literally does not matter. We are seen as different. We are seen as others. And that's not okay. That is not okay, because we live in a free country. We live in the land of opportunity. And that's not true for everyone. So I think it's really important for us to have this conversation. But so I'd love to hear, like, how did you all get into tech? Like, we're here in 2020 living in a wild world of COVID and of really, honestly, like a big time of change, which is exciting. And that's why I think we're even able to have this conversation, but we're also living in such weird and fragile times. So, I mean, how did you get to this point in time? Like, what got you here?
Yeah. So I have a weird, unconventional, non-traditional way that I got into the seat that I'm in today. I began in pursuit of a career in opera. And funny enough, I was never, I chose the most elitist, and some may say racist art forms out there, but I was truly encouraged the full time that I studied, and I never once felt like my color mattered. If anything, it was, oh, great, we finally have someone who is interested, who looks this way, who has this talent, who has this craft. Let's help him with a couple of rocks thrown my way, throughout the journey, like anyone expected or would expect, excuse me. But after I ended that journey, let's see, how did I get there? I guess, I had a friend who was also pursuing opera, went to CCM, which is the College Conservatory of Music for University of Cincinnati, one of the top programs in the world. And he ended up working for Yelp after college. And that was my first experience in New York. He was at the Chicago office. I thought, honestly, I was living in Mean Girls, working there. Where I fit, I wouldn't say that I was one of the unfriendly Black hotties, but the latter two, maybe. But it was interesting because it was just, many of the people who work there are very privileged white. And you could tell that the daddy and mommy's pocketbook was there, and they were having fun, whereas I was making ends meet. I was there, my what off.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't living in New York, I'd be on the street. And it was a great time that I had there, great foundation that I built to learn the ways of corporate life. And then when we decided to move from the city out to Palm Springs, California, is when I found Envision through a remote community called Remotive. And actually looked at the company on LinkedIn to see if I knew anyone. And one of my dear friends, Ethel, reached out to me at the time to say, hey, are you, we had a couple of conversations. And then after that, she was like, I would love to refer you. And bada bing, bada boom, I ended up at Envision.
Fun.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
It was
I didn't realize
crazy.
that you lived in New York.
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
Did
I know.
This is why I love you so much.
I was born there. White Plains, remember? Lawrence Hospital.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We had that. We got that. So my story is actually, I laugh at the reason why I got here all the time, right? Just because it leads to who I am as a person and like my thinking as a person. So in high school, we did the Keirsey temperament test. And during that test, it kind of like at the end, it tells you like all the jobs that you'd be good at. And so me being like, the internet was new, but there's a lot of stuff on the internet, me being who I am, I Googled every salary of every position or every job that they said that I'd be good at. And computer software was the one that made the most money. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going after that. Like this test told me that I'd be good at it and it makes good money. There I am. So yeah, I decided that in college I was going to major in computer science, was completely doubted by the head of the department first day one. I go up to him during a fair and I'm like, yeah, I want to be a computer science major. And he looks at me and goes, you know that it requires a lot of work, right? And I said, yep. And that's exactly why I want to do it. And that was it. And that was like that moment where I said, I will do this just because this man doubted me. Sure enough, a couple of years after, he asked me to start tutoring people. Sure enough, a couple of years after that, he gave me my first job as a computer science professor at the same college. So yeah, so I basically went down this journey and said, this is what I want to do. Got an internship right out of college, worked for a little bit, got laid off, restructured my life. And then, yeah, worked for some nice names like Adobe and Pepsi, worked for some crappy people who told me I wasn't worth anything more, and paid me less than I got paid out of college. And I had a master's degree at the time. And then, yeah, then decided one day, a friend of a friend, I was looking for a new job. A friend of a friend was like, hey, I got this, I know you're looking to get into the data world, and my friend works for this company called Envision. Do you want to talk to her? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Talked to her for a little bit over a phone call. And she was like, do you want me to submit your resume? I was like, yeah, let me see first. Checked out the company. They seemed pretty solid, pretty cool. Loved the vision. And then, yeah, sure enough, she submitted my resume, and here I am trying to make moves in this remote world. I love remote, like a plug for remote working, which a lot of people are doing right now, is that it allows you to live in an environment that you want to live in. And so I feel that in terms of like my last company, I worked with a bunch of like dudes, and it felt very like bro-y. And I, of course, was like the little Black girl who's trying to be like the boys all the time. And I remember one time I walked into my manager's office, or I walked into a meeting with my manager, and I was like, I don't feel like I belong here. He's like, oh yeah, you do. Everyone loves you, yada, yada. And I'm like, but I'm not like y'all. Like I'm different, and no one is accepting the fact that I'm different and trying to bring me into the fold. And it's always like, you need to be like them in order to survive. And so this is why I love being remote so much more, because I create all the beautiful things around me, right? Like my beautiful paddle board. I have beautiful art looking at me, you know, like I don't have to sit there and play with Nerf guns in an office because the boys are and I want to fit in, right? Like I build my own life. So yeah, plug for being able to be who you organically are. And I feel like in this situation I'm in right now, I can actually do that. But yeah, I was chasing the money.
That's so interesting. Like, do you all feel like working remotely has been able to allow you to be more of yourself?
I feel like I'm more myself on a day-to-day basis than working in an office. And I think maybe because, and I have to bring that back, working in Manhattan is like a dog-eat-dog world, right? Getting on that subway, dealing with all these different personalities, and then getting to work and then having to deal with another set of personalities. It's something about not having the energy of other people, or being able to control that energy, that allows me to continue to be me. I walk into a room, I'm bubbly, I'm happy. That's just who I am, right? I don't have someone else's energy that's like in my face, I'm absorbing, that's like hating the world. Yeah, maybe I see them in a Zoom and I just maybe don't pay attention to their face as much, right? And that's just how, I feel like this is such a better benefit to be in this space where I'm not dealing with too many people, or even like having to like pass someone I don't like, or I don't jive with. Like, call a spade. I don't have to like walk and go into the bathroom and have to be forced to say hello to someone, right?
Yeah. Or like, do you feel safer as a Black woman in this remote environment?
Safer? I don't know. It's different. Safer in terms of like, I'm not threatened, maybe, but I also feel like it's harder to be seen.
But threatened by what?
Well, threatened by like just people looking at me constantly and judging me, right? It's a lot harder to judge someone on a Zoom when you're looking at them in this interaction, whereas when you're in a room with a bunch of people, your voice gets drowned out a lot more. I feel like I can't talk as much.
Yeah, totally.
That is so funny because I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like I am, even if it's negative, I kind of get like, okay, cool. I copy on that, and like I'll take that to, you know, lift myself up even more. But I am, and during COVID especially, I have found that I am just like an extreme extrovert, and I need at some point, right, in my life, like, or in my day to day, I need a lot of people because I thrive off of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as well, like my stature in person is completely different than just this square box. Many people have said, "Oh, I thought you were shorter." Like, "Oh, I thought you were, this and that." And then they see me in person and they're like, "Oh, wow." I'm like, "You damn Skippy."
A tall glass of chocolate milk. Okay.
Right. Yes. And don't forget the shoes, honey. But that's so funny, like, that it's, I was in a conversation the other week about this too. And so it's funny to hear, the contrasts and comparisons of what people have to say.
It's so interesting because I think that's such a great point that we're bigger, like you're bigger than this box, right? But I feel like this box puts you at a different level. And I feel like it levels people out a lot more, where your stature doesn't intimidate me because you're this big man who, so I walk into a room and I don't have to like walk into a room and exude this like level of shoulders back, chest open, like big bravado. I could just turn on my video and be like, "What up, y'all?" And then turn it off when I don't want to see y'all, so it allows people to hide more. But I also think that it levels the playing field. But then I think it's a disadvantage to people who, like you were just saying, Christian, where you drive off of this energy and this bravado and being able to keep yourself big and big up. I think as a female, this is possibly a little bit, I'm interested to hear how you feel, Jackie, but I feel like this is, it levels out my playing field as a female being here.
Absolutely. I would definitely say as a woman and as a person of color, a Black woman, I feel safer. And I've talked to, in my role, I'm a recruiter. I talk to a lot of women and who work in this space, and people just feel so much more comfortable, like being on a screen. I've had people tell me about, really just like gory and like really horrible things that have happened to them in the workspace and why they want to work remotely, because they just feel so much safer as a woman, as a person of color, as someone who's like gay or queer. Like they don't have to answer so many more questions or feel compelled to show up a certain way or hide themselves. The screen is like protectant. It's a shield, which we've talked about. And so for me, like I got into tech, like I was working in advertising, I became a recruiter, I was working in creative recruiting, and then I got into digital design recruiting, and then I worked at Facebook and Instagram, and then I started a family, and I just knew I couldn't commute 2 hours one way from San Francisco down to the peninsula. And I was introduced to someone who was leading recruiting at the time at Envision, and it just worked out. And so I came over, and I've been here for almost 2 years, and it's been an amazing ride. And I love everyone I work with. And I've had some really amazing experiences throughout my career, and I've also had some really terrible ones, whether it was because I was a woman or because I was a person of color. It just it really just depends. It has depended on culture and just the things going on in the world. But I'm incredibly privileged and fortunate to be where I am today. I get to work with really amazing people like you. But yeah, I've definitely had some really shitty stuff happen. because of the way that I look and the way that I present. And it sucks. It really sucks. And it's definitely real. And I've had moments where I didn't realize what was happening. And then in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that definitely happened because I'm Black. That definitely happened because I'm a woman. Like, it definitely wouldn't have happened to a white dude. It definitely wouldn't have happened to a white woman. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So there's so many like gory details I could get into, but
it's just funny that you just said that, because I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian white surroundings, right? I've always been the token. I've always been the one that like doesn't look like everyone else, right? Especially the cheerleader, when back in the day, cheerleading was still new, right? And oftentimes now I find that I check myself a lot more when things happen. And I actually look and I'm like, wait, that wouldn't have happened if I were different. And I oftentimes go to white counterparts, predominantly white males, to ask them to check myself. And I've done it several times throughout my career because we're labeled as emotional Black women or emotionally Black or emotional women, right? Like everyone is like, you're just too much. And so it's so much more validating, and it's sad that I even have to do this when you tell a story to a white male and he's as shocked as you were and is more reactive than you were because you're trying not to come off as being bad.
Yeah, totally. I've had so many of those experiences, or like, it's one of the things that I do is I have a couple of really great now friends, but past colleagues that I will go and I'll say, hey, this like happened. What do you think of this? I like gut check with them. I also like go back and say, hey, this is how much I'm making right now. How much are you making in a similar role at a different company? Because I want to know, or, hey, I'm maybe looking to go into a new role. How much should I be asking for? Because they're making the money, right?
Yep.
So I always encourage people to do stuff like that. But it's sad that we have to, right. But it's our reality as of now.
Yeah. Completely agree. We're interesting. But again, like I said at the beginning, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that things can change. I actually told my team today, I was like, because I'm new to managing and I'm very like transparent. I like speak about everything that's on my mind. I feel like, dude, like, why am I holding anything back? Like, it's just doing a disservice. And so I mentioned today, because it was told to me that they think that sometimes I'm too cheery, too early in the morning, but we're all across time zones, so it's okay. And I was like, basically, I'm the always optimist. I will always try to find some happy light in a conversation. Even if people see it as being really crappy, I will try to find that happiness because that's how I make it through my day. That's how I make it through my life. The times where I don't do that, know that something's really wrong and that I'm probably like really beaten down, but then like the next day I'll bring it back up. But like, that's been my coping mechanism with this world and the things that I've been dealt in this world is to always try to turn it into this positive, happy, the glass half full, it's going to get better, this too shall pass. Like all of these things is how I cope with this world, because this world has been, and I bet you two too, we've been dealt some shitty ass cards. Gotta call a spade a spade. But I'm grateful for each of you. I'm grateful for the conversations that we have. I'm grateful for the time spent. I'm grateful for being able to build a community like this in a job that I love, because it just makes it makes the job more tasty, a little bit more spice.
Dorcie, I totally hear you. And one of the things that I've been working on is trying to not be the like eternal optimist, because it is our coping mechanism. And I guess it's okay, but at the same time, it's not, because it's okay to feel like things are super shitty and be in that moment and like fully feel it and then move on. And it's okay to not always have to turn something into something great.
Yeah.
Actually, you have permission to like be fucking mad or upset and like not feel optimistic about something, or like there's the grass is always greener or not always greener, or like whatever like phrase you want to throw into a situation. It's actually like okay. And we should feel okay with things not being okay sometimes.
Yeah, that is hard. Like, I feel you both have that internal optimism, whereas I play more of the role, right? Like, I see that for a Black man, I know what everyone thinks. How I'm going to behave, how I'm going to react, how I'm going to whatever just be. And it's always been, okay, well, I'm going to do the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to refine my speaking, the way that I carry myself, my appearance, my hair,
that beautiful goatee you got going on and that facial hair all on fleek.
Which has never been a thing. I have always, hated my beard until I'd say maybe 6 months ago.
I love it.
It's always been baby face. Let's get it off. Because I know that makes me look, well, one, it makes me look a little bit more foreign, which I'm always going to put something to that. And not just like a regular Black guy, right? Like, depending on where I am, they think I'm from Brazil, or they think I'm from Puerto Rico or DR, and I'm like, yes, but just don't ask me anything else, because I don't really know Portuguese that much. But playing the role is just, I'm so used to it because that's what I was working to do. So it's like, okay, I know that these are sort of the check boxes that I have to abide by, and now just unchecking them to say, no, this is just me, accept me, see me. And if you don't like me, so be it.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like, I feel like, how do you get to a place, like, for someone who's younger or someone who's just like in a place in their life where like we've had to play these roles, we've had to like change ourselves. How do you get to a place where you feel comfortable enough to like not feel that way,
Right.
or not feel like you have to be the eternal optimist or be something that society wants you to be? Like, how do you get to that point in your life?
I think it's internal reflection, speaking to a therapist and doing some soul searching, right? Yes. Like, I used to try to please everyone. And that was my chameleonness growing up. And I was able to shape that or shake that by doing the yoga in the sense of like, not just the poses, but like really following the yoga and thinking about me as a person and thinking internally and being able to sit with myself and get to know who this beautiful goddess is that is called Dorcie Victoria Lovinsky, right? Like, you can't. The other problem too is being a child of an immigrant, for me, has been really hard because you're trying to live up to their standards, right? Like, I tell the story all the time. I got a 98 on a test. My mom's like, where are the other 2 points, right? Like, you're always trying to live up to the standard, always trying to be good enough. Well, it's harder when you're still living under the roof of that person. But when you're able to remove yourself from that situation, you will find that you are always good enough. You are who you are, and they've helped to shape you. But know that, I think also tapping into a network of people who are like-minded. My little cousin, she is in college or going to college, or sophomore year of college. And in front of her mom, we were on FaceTime in front of her mom. I said, your mom loves you and tries to do everything for you, but know that you don't need to do everything that she says. Know that you have a mind of your own and that she's trying to help you, but you can be whoever you want to be. You know, and just know that. And my aunt laughs in the background because she knows that she's trying to impose herself and her views and everything on her. And they do it for years, right? That's what you do as a parent. But then there's a time where like you have to spread your wings and be allowed to like do you.
Yes.
And I've always been the person to like do that. And that's a story for another day.
Yeah. Christian, would you like agree and maybe say like it comes also probably with time?
Oh yeah. And repetition, I mean, you have to practice at it every day. I'm like, you know, I've started to give myself some affirmations every day. And like, the first thing is, do I feel good in my body? Check. Great. Let's move on to, you know, you are worthy. You are not a failure. You you can succeed. You can continue to stretch on. You are able.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Incapable to strive all the way.
Yep.
Without question.
Yep.
And that's hard to keep up there, but we have to now. There's no turning back, because I will refuse to raise a family with some of the just BS that I've seen and the way that people have been treating people. It is just obscene and grotesque. What do you gain? What do you gain from the way that we're treated?
Well, I think it's The big thing is like power. Other people don't want to lose their power. Other people are insecure.
Yeah.
True.
I honestly think those are the two big things, power and insecurity. But as we all know, like when everyone has a seat at the table, everyone does better, whether it's in business, whether it's in like personal life, whether it's in like the advancement of our society. Like there's no reason why everyone shouldn't have an equal share at the pie.
Thanks all for joining the conversation. We hope you enjoyed this first installment of our series. Next up, we'll have a product manager and engineer featured in the conversation to learn about their experiences, just as we shared ours. We hope that you'll continue listening and super excited to hear from them.
Amazing.
I'm so glad we got to do this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic. It's
It
necessary.
is. So necessary. Take care of yourselves.
Yes.
I need y'all.
See you next time.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening. I'm sure if you're anything like me, definitely looking forward to hearing more of these conversations from Jackie, Dorcie, and Christian. As always, everybody in legal wants me to remind you, the views here are just my own. They don't represent any of my current or former employers. And look, I say it every time, and I mean it every time, but especially on these topics. Time, I know, is the only true luxury any of us have. I'm always incredibly humbled you want to spend any of it listening to this show. So thanks again. Look forward to more in this series. And as always, stay crazy.